The year was 1994. A well-known entertainment and electronics company named Sony expanded their market into the gaming industry with the Sony PlayStation. Although they weren't the first company to offer CD-based consoles, they beat out their competitors with a superior catalog of titles. At the time, I was 7 years old and remember having the notion that the PlayStation had all the mature games, and that appealed to me, but I was still tightly gripped by the hype surrounding Nintendo's new console. 2 years later, I awoke Christmas morning in 1996 and excitedly ran down the stairs. As per the norm, my parents made up breakfast and we all ate together, my sister and I anxiously glancing over at the Christmas tree to see our gifts. I'm pretty sure that my parents made us wait until we would say, "Okay, can we open the presents now?" I do know that they hid the best for last. And I'm being completely honest when I say that I didn't expect what came when they brought out a larger than normal box. When I tore the wrapping paper away and saw the Nintendo 64 logo, I was basically this kid. The Nintendo 64 was host to some of the most fun I've experienced in gaming. It holds a fond place in my heart for those summer days lost in my basement as I explored 3D worlds for the first time. A few short years later, in 1998, a lot had changed. My family had moved to a new home, a few miles away from the old one. I attended the Denver School of the Arts in 7th grade and realized how much I missed my friends from the old school. And that Christmas brought me another surprise. When I opened a new PlayStation complete with DualShock controllers, I was more than ecstatic. Since I didn't spend much time with my friends during the school year, I found myself glued to my PlayStation and N64 frequently. As time went on, I noticed that the N64 began to gather more dust than the PlayStation. A shift had occurred and I was now a PlayStation junkie, but I loved it. I found myself rapidly expanding my game collection. That's when I recalled an ad I had seen a year before.
An evil empire is sucking the life force from the planet, destroying all that's in its path. It's up to one soldier of fortune to save the world. If he succeeds, you survive. If he fails, you can always hit the reset button. Final Fantasy VII.
PlayStation.
All I knew was this. There was a dude with crazy cool hair who had a gigantic sword, riding a motorcycle, fighting monsters along with city-sized cannons, meteors falling from the sky, rockets, and explosions. As an 11-year-old boy, I was like, sign me up. I got my hands on it and I jumped straight into my first JRPG, or Japanese role-playing game. I remember that summer I randomly decided to join the outside world and ride my bike. I rode through the neighborhood and found myself in front of an old friend's house. We had hung out a few times here and there, but it had been a while since we last spoke, so I decided to walk up and ring the doorbell. And since that point, we started hanging out almost every day. During that time, I shared Final Fantasy VII with him. He almost immediately went out and got himself a copy. Over that summer, we shared our adventures and spared each other of the spoilers if we ever got ahead, and we grew to become the best of friends. The summer after our high school graduation, we saw the release of the feature-length animated film Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. It was amazing and we were in awe of the CGI used in the film. It was such a pleasure to see our childhood heroes realized in high definition. The same year, we saw a PlayStation 3 tech demo featuring this. we began to hope for a remake. As the years went on, that hope diminished. By 2012, we had both graduated from the same college with the same degree in multimedia design and development, with an emphasis in game development. At that point, we were both a little bit more interested in the approaching Final Fantasy XV. Fast forward to E3 2015, and this absolute bombshell came out of nowhere.
Square Enix released a groundbreaking title that went on to become one of the most beloved games in PlayStation and video game history. Tonight, I am proud to announce that by popular demand, we have a very special treat for everyone.
Long ago, we looked upon a foreboding sky. The memory of the star that threatened all burns eternal in our hearts. In its wake came an age of silence. Yet with each fond remembrance, we knew those encountered were not forgotten. That someday we would see them again. Perhaps it was no more than wishful thinking. But after the long calm, there are now the beginnings of a stir. The reunion at hand may bring joy, it may bring fear, but let us embrace whatever it brings. For they are coming back. At last, the promise has been made.
A little bit of excitement. We're proud to announce that Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming first to PlayStation 4.
We weren't just excited, our heads exploded. More time passed with little to no updates on the remake. We began to feel the same diminishing hope we had felt with the PS3 tech demo. As life went on, our lives changed even more. He became a husband and father in 2016. I left my career as a graphic designer to become a secondary technology teacher, and now I'm soon to be married myself to my wonderful fiance. To this day, him and I still care for each other like brothers. We see each other as often as we can, but one passion we will always share is for Final Fantasy VII. In many ways, it was sort of a bonding agent that made the foundation of our friendship, as nerdy as that sounds. During an evening out with my fiance and our family on May 9th of this year, 2019, I was scrolling through Facebook when I suddenly saw a YouTube trailer.
Halt! Hands up!
Have fun.
I'm here for you, to help take the load off your shoulders.
So, what's our next move, boss?
That's easy enough.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Here, this is for you.
A flower?
Can you bear to see the planet suffer? Cloud.
I immediately shared the news with my friend, and you could probably guess how we reacted.
She give me
E3 2019 around the corner, it only seems appropriate that I talk about a game that has not only inspired the best friendship in my life, but created so many special memories for millions of people the world over. I'm Kevin Allen, and this is why I love Final Fantasy VII. Upon its release, Final Fantasy VII was a groundbreaking masterpiece. It was one of the first games to feature a 3-disc long story filled with characters whose motivations were usually deep and complex. Final Fantasy VII's story follows the theme of life, death, and the conflict between mankind and nature. What's more is that it accomplished this without being overshadowed by an agenda like so many other forms of media today. The game starts off in Midgar, a dark, dystopian city with a mixture of cyber and steampunk, showcasing a world on the edge of ruin, all while maintaining humor, magic, heart, and a whimsical air. What's well executed in the first chapter of Final Fantasy VII is that you are given clear direction as to what's wrong with the world and the villains responsible. Furthermore, it can be argued that the game asks some challenging questions to the player. You play as Cloud Strife, an ex-Shinra soldier turned mercenary who finds himself hired by an eco-terrorist group named Avalanche. In the opening sequence, you and Avalanche's leader, Barrett, leap off of a train and set out to destroy a Mako reactor owned by Shinra, an evil corporation who owns and runs Midgar. The argument for destroying the reactor is because it takes power from the planet's life stream and converts it to Mako energy, used to power the city. In essence, Shinra is slowly killing the planet for power. This is as good a reason as any for bombing something, right? Well, the game is sure to tell the player that their actions are responsible for many innocent deaths. So you're immediately conflicted by your own actions and wonder who's worse, the antagonists or the protagonists. This is layered by the fact that each character has their own backstory and motivations which guide their actions. You have to remember that in 1997, storytelling on this level was in short supply from other developers. Squaresoft was responsible for nearly all games with deep and enriching settings. They made sure that the worlds that they crafted felt lived in. They designed their worlds around purpose and meaning, and it shows. This mindset extended to the composition of every moment in the game's design. They force you to move quickly and frantically in the opening reactor attack. Then when you arrive back at the hideout, the explorable areas widen up, and you can relax and investigate the world a bit. Following sections utilize a similar flow built up with mini-climaxes to excite the player and amp them up, followed by moments of calm to let the player explore and learn about the world. After you complete the Midgar chapter, the first village you go to is literally called Calm, with a K. What makes this a great design is that it leaves the choice to the player. For players who just want action, they can storm through the game and get all the action they're looking for while retaining the general story. On the other hand, story-driven players who take their time to meticulously explore and grow their knowledge of the world also receive great benefits. My friend and I must have easily played this game for over hundreds of hours and still learn new things about it to this day. Despite how much I can praise the gameplay and game design, my hat truly goes off to the story and soundtrack. As I said before, you start the game in a city owned and managed by Shinra, so you're inclined to believe that this is a story about you and your team facing off against this evil entity before destroying their reactors. Then, just as you feel like you've got a hold on a seemingly simple plot, they throw Sephiroth at you like... Suddenly, Cloud sees evidence to suggest that someone named Sephiroth is back from the dead. This results in the end of the Midgar chapter, where you and your team leave the dark, gloomy city behind and enter the overworld where you are free to explore for the first time. Everyone meets in the nearby town of Calm. This is when Cloud shares his story about their true enemy and greatest threat. What follows is the best presentation of a villain I've ever seen. You play through Cloud's memory of going on a secret Shinra mission alongside Sephiroth. A fight with an enormous dragon interrupts their dialogue. When the battle begins, Sephiroth is in your party. You can't control him, but you can still see him in action. You experience his power instead of simply hearing characters say, "Oh yeah, he's super strong, fear him," etc. If that wasn't enough, soon after Cloud's story, you're met with a giant snake called the Midgar Zolom that you have to outrun on a chocobo to avoid fighting, otherwise it kills your entire party without breaking a sweat. When you cross the marshes it inhabits, you are met with a cutscene of another Zolom that's been defeated and driven down onto a tall tree. It's explained that it was killed by Sephiroth's hand. This is what I mean by intentional purpose-driven game design and plot development. The game lets you, as the player, experience what you should be afraid of. That gives you the motivation to grind and strengthen your characters. It explains that you're weak compared to that which you must destroy, so you get to work. Given the length of the game, you have plenty of opportunities to face interesting enemies and take on unique side quests. This is why my friend and I had so much to talk about. Have you seen the weird monsters in the hidden cave? Did you do the tower defense minigame? Have you gone under the ocean yet? Have you discovered the lost temple? It's staggering to think that Squaresoft, now Square Enix, was able to develop this entire game within the span of just a few years. As I also stated, the music is such a driving force for the emotional impact in this game. Prior to this, Final Fantasy composer Nobuo Uematsu would create a driving theme and compose the music around that theme for the rest of the game. With Final Fantasy VII, however, he chose to instead craft the music for all of the moments in the game while maintaining a general feel to all of them. I believe that the soundtrack to this game can be enjoyed without ever playing through the story. However, these days, I can listen to this music and be transported. Ever have the opportunity to see Distant Worlds, the music of Final Fantasy? Get tickets and go. Uematsu's music is so beautiful. The last thing I'll say about Final Fantasy VII is that it truly feels like you explore a world outside your own. It's beautiful, strange, inspiring, and full of great messages from several perspectives and stories. It shows the value of life and balance, and the sacrifices necessary to maintain that balance between good and evil. The story gave us a gang of characters with flaws, and we watched as they faced them to grow. Most importantly, despite his weaknesses and failures, Cloud was always ready to rise and try again. Something I don't think enough people do anymore. Final Fantasy made up a significant part of my teen years and has continued to motivate, inspire, and influence my own creative endeavors to this day. Alongside countless other fans, I know we all look forward to what E3 has in store for the remake of such a beloved title. The reunion at hand may bring joy, it may bring fear, but let us embrace whatever it brings. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey down memory lane. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you're interested in hearing more on technology, creativity, tutorials, and gaming, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. I'm Kevin Allen, and this has been Technically Something. I'll see you guys soon.